You step into a warm shower without thinking about it. Clean water pours over your skin. Soap foams in your hands. Shampoo washes away sweat, dust, and yesterday's worries before they ever become a problem. A toothbrush waits beside the sink. A fresh towel hangs nearby. And if something smells bad, a bottle, a spray, or a bar of soap fixes it in minutes. Now imagine waking up tomorrow and every one of those things has vanished. No soap, no toothpaste, no deodorant, no shampoo, no toilet paper, no plumbing, no pharmacies, no hot water, just you, the wilderness, and whatever nature decided to give you that day. For almost all of human existence, that wasn't a nightmare. It was simply life. So the question is simple. For hundreds of thousands of years without bathrooms, soap, or running water, how clean were early humans really? Were they filthy cave dwellers covered in dirt and disease? Or have movies and cartoons painted a picture that couldn't be further from the truth? The answer is far stranger than you might expect. Here's the first thing almost nobody tells you. Being dirty isn't the same as being unhealthy. Your ancestors didn't wake up every morning trying to smell like lavender or fresh cotton. They weren't trying to impress coworkers or fit into crowded elevators. Their goal was much simpler: stay alive. And survival often demanded something very different from modern ideas of cleanliness. Take a walk through a forest after a rainstorm. The air smells fresh. Water trickles down smooth rocks. Birds sing overhead while insects buzz through the undergrowth. If you came across a clear stream, your first instinct might be to splash some water on your face. Your ancestors thought exactly the same way. Archaeologists have found that many prehistoric campsites were built surprisingly close to reliable sources of fresh water. At sites like Gesher Benot Yaakov in northern Israel, dated to around 780,000 years ago, evidence shows early humans repeatedly returned to lake shores rich in plants, fish, and clean water. Water wasn't just for drinking, it became the center of daily life. Think about that for a second. If you spend every day walking several miles, gathering food, crossing rivers, and hunting under the hot sun, your skin naturally collects sweat, dust, and mud. The easiest way to cool down wasn't inventing a shower, it was stepping into a river. No scented soap, no shampoo, just flowing water. Scientists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have noticed something fascinating. Communities like the Hadza of Tanzania often bathe in rivers or streams whenever the opportunity appears, not because someone tells them to, but because it feels good, removes dirt, cools the body, and helps wash away insects. That simple habit may stretch back tens of thousands of years. Water alone removes a surprising amount of grime. Modern advertisements have trained you to think soap is the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. But plain water washes away loose dirt, dried sweat, pollen, and many microbes. Soap makes the process much more effective, especially against oils. But humans spent countless generations relying on water long before anyone knew what soap even was. And rivers offered something else: movement. Still water becomes dirty quickly. Flowing water constantly replaces itself, carrying away mud and waste downstream. Your ancestors probably didn't understand bacteria, the microscopic organisms that can cause disease, but they learned through experience that some water made people sick while other water didn't. Experience became their science. Here's where things become even more interesting. Early humans weren't covered in clothing the way you are today. Depending on the climate and the period, much of their skin remained exposed to air and sunlight. Sweat evaporated more easily. Damp fabric didn't cling to the body for hours. There weren't multiple synthetic layers trapping heat against the skin. That changed everything. Your body is surprisingly good at cleaning itself. Skin constantly sheds old cells. Tiny flakes fall away every minute without you noticing. Sweat helps regulate temperature. Natural skin oils create a protective barrier against drying out and many harmful microbes. Dermatologists today call this the skin barrier. In simple terms, it's your body's built-in protective shield. Wash too aggressively and you can actually damage it. Think about that. For decades, many people believed prehistoric humans were permanently caked in dirt. Yet anthropologists now argue the reality was probably far less dramatic. Dirt doesn't instantly stick forever. Rain falls, rivers flow, wind blows, skin renews itself. People scratched, rubbed, rinsed, and swam whenever conditions allowed. Nature helped more than we imagine, but rivers came with their own dangers. Fast currents could sweep someone away. Crocodiles lurked in parts of Africa. Parasites lived in stagnant pools. A peaceful stream during the dry season could become a deadly flood after heavy rain. Cleaning yourself was never completely safe. Every trip to the water required judgment. Here's the part nobody talks about. Smell mattered, not because of fashion, because of survival. Many predators possess an extraordinary sense of smell. A lion can detect prey from remarkable distances under the right conditions. Wolves and hyenas relied heavily on scent. Even insects like mosquitoes locate humans by detecting carbon dioxide and body odors released through the skin. Strong smells could become dangerous. Now scientists still debate exactly how much human body odor affected predator encounters in prehistory, so we can't say early humans deliberately bathed to hide their scent from lions. The evidence simply isn't there. But we do know something equally fascinating. Humans are naturally less smelly than many other mammals. Compared with animals like horses or chimpanzees, humans have relatively little body hair. Evolution gradually reduced our fur while increasing our ability to sweat through millions of tiny sweat glands. According to evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman of Harvard University, this adaptation helped early humans stay cool during long-distance walking and persistence hunting under the African sun. Sweating made us exceptional runners. It also created a new challenge. The sweat itself isn't what smells bad. Fresh sweat is almost odorless. The smell appears when bacteria living on your skin begin breaking down sweat into smaller chemical compounds. That's why you can exercise for a few minutes without smelling much, but hours later the odor becomes noticeable. Here's what that means. If your ancestors regularly rinsed themselves in rivers, lakes, or rainfall, they could reduce much of that buildup even without soap. Not perfectly, but enough to make a difference. And unlike modern life, they weren't squeezing into crowded buses, office buildings, or subway trains where dozens of people shared the same air. Most early human groups were small, often only a few dozen individuals, and spent much of their lives outdoors, where fresh air constantly dispersed odors. The world itself was their ventilation system. The more you look at prehistoric hygiene, the more one myth begins to fall apart. Clean didn't mean smelling like perfume. Clean meant staying healthy enough to wake up tomorrow, and that difference changes everything. Because once you understand how your ancestors used water, you begin to realize that rivers solved only the easiest part of the problem. The real challenge started the moment they smiled. An open wound is terrifying. Today, you rinse it under clean tap water, reach for an antiseptic, maybe cover it with a sterile bandage, and if it looks serious, you drive to the nearest hospital. Even then, you probably worry about infection. Now imagine falling onto a sharp rock 80,000 years ago. Your skin tears open, blood runs down your leg. There's dirt everywhere, no antibiotics, no emergency room. No one even knows what bacteria are. So why didn't every injury become a death sentence? Here's the first surprise. Many probably did. Life expectancy in prehistory was heavily influenced by accidents and infections. A deep cut from a stone tool, an animal bite, or a broken bone could become fatal if harmful microbes entered the body. But archaeology tells us something equally remarkable. Many people recovered, again and again. Scientists know this because the ancient skeletons often show healed fractures, repaired skull injuries, and bones that had completely fused after severe breaks. At Atapuerca in northern Spain, where human remains dating back more than 430,000 years have been discovered, researchers found individuals who survived serious injuries that would have required weeks or even months of recovery. Healing takes time. Time requires care. Someone had to help. Here's what nobody tells you. The human body is astonishingly good at repairing itself. The moment your skin breaks, millions of cells rush into action. Blood begins clotting within minutes. A protective scab forms. White blood cells, your body's microscopic defenders, attack invading microbes long before you're even aware of what's happening. Your immune system has been practicing this job for millions of years, long before medicine existed, but your ancestors didn't simply sit and hope. Evidence from archaeology and traditional societies suggests that humans experimented constantly with the natural world. Across different continents, people learned through trial and error which plants soothed pain, which leaves reduced swelling, and which tree resins seemed to help wounds heal. Nobody understood chemistry. They understood results. One fascinating example comes from Border Cave in South Africa. Archaeologists discovered a small wooden stick dating to around 24,000 years ago coated with traces of a poisonous castor bean compound. Researchers believe it may have been used to apply poison to hunting weapons, showing that prehistoric humans possessed surprisingly detailed knowledge of plants and their effects. If they understood which plants could kill, it's reasonable to think they also learned which ones could help, and we have stronger evidence from later periods. The famous Ötzi the Iceman, discovered frozen in the Alps in 1991 and dated to about 3,300 BCE, carried pieces of birch polypore fungus attached to leather straps. Scientists believe this fungus may have been used for medicinal purposes because it contains compounds with mild antibacterial and antiparasitic properties. Think about that. 5,000 years ago, someone was already carrying a natural medicine kit. Nature wasn't just food, it was a pharmacy. Here's another detail most people never consider. Fire helped keep people clean in ways that had nothing to do with warmth. Smoke drove away insects, heat dried damp clothing into animal hides. Boiling water, once humans mastered containers that could withstand heat, made it safer to drink and could also be used to clean wounds. Even ash had unexpected uses. Wood ash is naturally alkaline, meaning it has chemical properties that can help break down grease. Many traditional cultures later mixed ash with water to create primitive cleaning solutions. While we can't say Paleolithic humans routinely made soap-like mixtures, they certainly had access to materials that could help remove stubborn dirt. Necessity creates invention, not overnight, over generations. Here's what doesn't make sense until you think about it. Early humans didn't need to eliminate every germ, neither do you. Your body is covered with trillions of microorganisms right now. Scientists call this community the microbiome, a word that simply means the collection of tiny living organisms that naturally live on and inside your body. Most of them aren't your enemies, many are your allies. Research from institutions like the National Institutes of Health has shown that these microbes help digest food, train the immune system, and even protect against harmful bacteria by competing for space. Being completely sterile isn't natural, it's impossible. Your ancestors lived surrounded by microbes every second of their lives. Their immune systems developed in constant conversation with the environment, exposed to soil, plants, animals, and fresh air from birth. That doesn't mean they were immune to disease. Far from it. Parasites, infections, and epidemics still claimed countless lives. But it does mean our modern definition of clean isn't the same as nature's definition. Clean isn't the absence of all microbes. Clean is balance. And that brings us back to the question we started with. Were early humans actually dirty? If you're imagining people permanently covered in layers of filth, with rotten teeth, infected skin, and unbearable smells, the evidence tells a different story. They washed in rivers, they groomed one another, they cared for wounds, they removed parasites, they learned from plants, they protected clean water. They developed habits that increased the odds of survival, even without understanding the invisible world of bacteria. Their methods weren't perfect. They didn't have to be, because perfection was never the goal. Survival was. Winter came with freezing rivers. Summer brought swarms of insects. Cuts invited infection. Waste threatened disease. Parasites found every opportunity. And your ancestors answered each challenge with observation, cooperation, and thousands of years of accumulated experience. No laboratories, no instruction manuals. Just generations teaching the next generation what worked. The next time you step into a warm shower, squeeze toothpaste onto your toothbrush, or wash your hands without even thinking about it, remember that those simple habits didn't appear overnight. They're the newest chapter in a story your ancestors began writing hundreds of thousands of years ago beside rivers, around campfires, and under open skies. The greatest hygiene tool humans ever invented wasn't soap. It was the ability to learn,